Hi everybody, my name is Cindy Krum and I'm the CEO of MobileMoxie. We are a mobile, local, desktop, and technical SEO consulting and tool company. We love helping companies with all different kinds of SEO and especially the hard, gnarly stuff. We love that. So today my presentation for the WhiteSpark Local Search Summit is called Is This New? Truth versus Fantasy, Reality Checking Your Local SEO in Mobile. And I'm super excited about it. Recently, with the pandemic, more and more people seem to be spending time on Twitter, connecting with their friends because they can't connect with them offline, or at least that's true of me. Maybe I'm the only one that's guilty. But I think Twitter, there's a lot you can learn because the SEO community there is so dense and so active. And so this talk is not about Twitter, but it's inspired by Twitter. And it's especially inspired by this guy named Barry Schwartz, or Rusty Brick on Twitter. And he has been in the SEO industry probably longer than me. So one of the very most prominent and long-term SEOs that there really is. And he has made his name by writing up news articles about just about everything that Google does, all the changes, all the things that they're trying and testing and announcing. And so he has become really well known for someone who just knows everything about what's going on at the moment and what's been announced and what's official and all these things. So with all the changes happening in SEO right now, he seems to get the same question over and over and over again. And that's this: is this new? Barry gets this question a lot, probably multiple times a day, and usually with screenshots like this, or this, or this. And sometimes things that are related to SEO, local SEO, sometimes not, sometimes random things scratched out, or screenshots from mobile, screenshots that include new features in the search results, or even that include someone's analytics that maybe they shouldn't share. But lots of information and lots of questions about, is this new? And hey, I just saw this. Is this new? Is this new? And it feels like answers this question, or at least has people tweet to him, like I said, multiple times a day with the same question and a different screenshot or a different example, asking if this is in fact new. And in almost every case, the answer is no, it's not new. And in fact, this has happened so much that people have made memes about it. This is a meme from Izzy Smith talking about how it feels to think that you found something cool and neat and show it to Barry and ask if it's new and find out that it's not. And this is from Morty. This is great. You've been buried. Which just means no, it's not new. And what happens here, I think, is interesting because often the questions that people are asking, they're probably trying to be casual about it, like, hey, I just saw this. But in some cases, it's really important to them because it's related to a query that they care about very much, that impacts their business. And so when people ask this question, it makes me think, is this person concerned about their ability to drive traffic and to drive rankings? And so it's potentially like a perilous question, especially if you thought you had something in the bag. You thought you were ranking really well for this, and then something just shows up and takes your ranking. And it feels like that's getting more and more common. And a lot of that traffic is actually not even going to a competitor, but it's going to Google. One study shows that Google is taking up 62.6% of the first screen of mobile results now. Something Google owned, some Google property, whether it's paid or whether it's map packs or app packs or knowledge graph or a featured snippet or something like that. Google is taking up a lot of screen real estate. But that's not the only problem here that I see. I see something else going on that also concerns me, and that is people asking the question are surprised by something that's happening in the search result. And to me, it must be happening because they're not actually looking at real search results. They're looking at abstractions. And what I mean by this is they're looking at their analytics, because analytics by their nature are abstractions of reality. They aggregate and average all of the information, and they can't show you the specific details. And so this is a way to explain abstraction that I think is really useful. This is the London tube map on the right, what the tube map looks like, but it shows you lots of straight lines and directions that don't actually exist or don't actually correlate to reality above ground. It's just a way to make all the dots line up. And I think in some ways, our analytics programs are like this. They show us a high level of information that necessarily omits the details. And I think if you're looking especially at Search Console, it may intentionally omit some details that are important to us. And in the same way that if we were walking around reading a map and not looking where we were going, we would necessarily trip. That happens to SEOs when you're not actually looking at real results. Because I think what I've seen is that many of the things that impact your ability to drive traffic, whether it's to an offline location from a map pack or to a website, many of the things that impact that are actually not reported in the reporting software. And so this is a list of, and it's longer than this, I had to cut it off because it wouldn't fit, but this is a list of all of the changes that went live during COVID. Lily Ray put this together and made it available to share, so you can get this list for yourself if you want. But what I did is I took that list and I highlighted all the things that were local oriented. And I made those blue, and you can see lots of the changes focused on local because, of course, local businesses were struggling during a shutdown. And even Barry wasn't sure about some of the things that happened and had to confirm. Was this new? Can you confirm if this is new or not? He had to reach out to other people. And he admits that he gets stumped all the time, but I would say not all the time, only now and then. But when it comes down to local SEO, Barry is not the only resource there is. Really, the person who knows the most about the local changes is Joy Hawkins, and she's done an amazing job over the past couple months of keeping everyone updated on what's happening in local, what's changed, what's announced, when it's going to go live, what you can expect, what industries it's impacting. And she's put together a list of things on the Local U blog, and I shortened it up here just a little bit, combined a couple of things, but lots of things have kind of been announced, gone live, had weird things happen to them, sometimes rolled back, in an attempt to help the small businesses deal with the pandemic. And she's tweeted a lot about all of the things that she's seeing. And so I'm sharing some things that I know she's tweeted or retweeted. And so credit goes to both the original person and the person who amplified it. Of course, this is from Darren from Whitespark, showing all of the volatility and turbulence that was happening in the local pack rankings. Some great stuff from Sterling Sky about how the URL of a business impacts things. Lots of discussion about the Google guaranteed local search ads, stuff about Q&A, stuff about decreases in rich snippets and FAQ and how-to schema results, which have changed quite a lot, actually, if that's something that you were targeting. But Joy is really the go-to here in local SEO, more so than Barry. But what I wonder often when I see these announcements, and especially in local SEO, is how do we know when these changes are impacting your business? Because sometimes there are global changes, or there are changes that are industry specific, and you just don't know whether it's been rolled out to your industry, whether it's impacting you at all. And there are lots of amazing tools in the local SEO space that can help you get a handle on what's going on and give you tabular data about how things look kind of on an average or even in specific. But often, again, I think that these analytics softwares are abstractions of reality. They necessarily have to omit things to tell you a comprehensive story that is not quite as detailed as the reality. So what happens then is that people spend their time in their software, whatever it is, but then they check a real result on their own phone, and they get to this point. And I'm creating this this saying. I want to see if I can get this to catch on, because WDTC, what do you think it stands for? When did this change? Because people are asking, when did this change, or is this new, kinds of questions so much. So WDTC, when did this change? We get into situations where people don't realize that the announcements have started impacting them. So things like the Google guaranteed ads, stuff like this takes up so much real estate at the top and looks so authoritative that even if you're ranking really well in the map pack below it, you would lose traffic. But that's not something that shows up readily in most of the analytics platforms. And so you see in that we do have the map pack down below the LSA. You get there, you see a seamless ad. That's another thing that you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know about the local Q&A that happens just below the map pack that might be drawing attention. All of these things are happening and could be influencing your ability to drive traffic despite what your numeric rankings say. So my point here is to encourage you to not just look at the analytics, not just look at the map, but to look up and do real searches to see what's actually going on and what could be taking attention away or impacting your ability to drive traffic. And so things like this, where when they started adding popular times, or now below your GMB page, sometimes you have in the web, and it includes your competitors down there. But that's, again, something that you might not know unless you're actually looking at real search results. So in this example, you can see just something simple. We all know that this is here. The COVID warning is now showing up in the map packs and individual GMB landing pages. But what you might not know is that it's not always there. So you can see on the 26th, the furthest on the left, there is a COVID warning in the map pack, but the next day at about the same time, there's not. And the next day after that, there's also not. So that's something interesting to know. Maybe Google's about to take it off. Maybe there are things that affect whether or not it showed, but this was testing from the same location and the same query on the same phone. So nothing changed. Just that COVID warning changed. Other things that changed, you can see here, Google has the images for the map pack rankings, and then the next day, they have carousels that happened on the 27th. And unless you were actually paying attention, really watching Twitter and then checking your results, you might not know that that had gone live, or that that was actually live for your business and not just other businesses, or live in your industry, not just other industries. And so that's one of those things where you might look and say, oh my gosh, is this new? And the answer is no. It's probably not new. Again, it's something that you could have caught if you were looking at real results, but you didn't. Here's another example, test or a search for food delivery in Indiana. And you can see here on the furthest phone on the left, we have Brothers Pizza. And so it's ranking in second position, not too bad. But then on the next 2 days, it's moved down. Okay, not too bad. It's still in the top 3. But then you see Domino's. Domino's went from not there at all to the very top. That's interesting. Don't understand how that would happen, except that food delivery is a query that changes quite a bit. But then if you're Mama Facio's Pizza, it's a sad story because you were there on the 26th and then you're gone. And so just knowing the volatility of these rankings, even if you're looking at 1 month at a time in your analytics program and it's saying you're in position 3 or you're in position 4, that doesn't mean that you're consistently there. It is changing quite a bit, especially depending on the query and the level of competition from day to day. So another thing that can happen is that as you move further away, of course, from one point, the rankings for a specific location can change. And nothing shows this better than the tool Local Falcon. It shows you what the map pack rankings are in a grid like this. And it's so interesting because it so clearly illustrates that it's not particularly predictable. It's not like target shaped. In some cases, it can be really weird and unpredictable like this. And it has more to do with the competition in a specific location and potentially other ranking factors. But it means that it makes sense to use tools like Local Falcon to test and see how rankings look. But it goes even further. If you're looking at just web results and not map results, they can change even more. So you get into this situation where in some cases, it's hard to know what a real search result might look like. And so thinking about this always reminds me of this old abbreviation that we used. Does anyone remember what this means? LMGTFY. It's a kind of a joke. It was meant to stand for let me Google that for you. And it was the response that you would give to someone if they asked you a question that there's really no way for you to know the answer to, or that you probably don't know the answer to, and you're just going to look it up, so why don't they just look it up? Their tagline is, for those people who find it more convenient to bother you with their question rather than to search for it themselves. And this was funny. It was a gag. There was even a website with this abbreviation, and here's an example of what it did. You would ask someone a question, and in response, people would send them a link with a video like this. And of course, it had whatever you were searching for, and then they could click there to get the real results. So it was a joke. But in local SEO, we get something similar. And so I think that there's something, and it happens on Twitter. I have a modification to that abbreviation. So it's CYGTFM. Can you Google this for me? And we see even some of the best SEOs going on Twitter and asking people to randomly do a Google search and see what ranks and respond on Twitter. And you might think that this is a great solution. And this girl who's doing the Googling, she looks so happy. But it's really only good once or twice. After a while, people will get annoyed with you. And they don't want to do the searching for you. So there has to be a better way, right? We have to either trust something like Local Falcon, where we're getting a numeric result, and trust our analytics, where we're getting tabular information, and not knowing what things really look like, or we need something different. And remember, it's not just the map packs that change. SERPs, including knowledge graph and featured snippets, can also change based on location and other things, like based on phone language. So in this example, I like to show it because it shows it was just a query for DoorDash from the same phone in the exact same location. The only difference between the two phones is the language setting of the phone. And you can see on the left, it's in English. And we've got the CEO, founded, subsidiaries, founders, customer support number, and then we've got delivery fee money, like expanders at the bottom. But if the phone language is set to Spanish, we get a much shorter description, and our competitors show up much higher. So again, this is something that you wouldn't know if you hadn't done the test. But if you're targeting a group of people who are multilingual or who might not have all the same default phone language setting, it's worth testing to know, how does our result look different? Are there different calls to action? Has knowledge graph changed? Has the featured snippet changed? Has anything in the map pack changed? And things in the map pack change as well. So in this example, we see that another example of how a knowledge graph and a featured snippet and a map pack can interact. Or this one's just a knowledge graph and a map pack. So this is a search for Little Buddha in New York City. So in New York City, Little Buddha is a chain of Japanese restaurants. I think there are about 10 of them. And so you can see when you search for Little Buddha in New York City, you get the map pack on top. The thing is, as you go away from New York City, let's say upstate, you go to Saratoga Springs, when you search for Little Buddha, you of course don't get the map pack because there's a knowledge graph for a movie called Little Buddha. And it turns out that knowledge graph kinds of results are more powerful in terms of rankings than a regular blue link. So if there's a knowledge graph and a map pack fighting it out for the same result, the knowledge graph is going to be more aggressive in showing up above the map pack than other relevant blue links might. So if you're only up against blue links, your map pack is going to be strong and kind of persist even as you go further and further away in some cases, or in most cases. But when you have something strong like a map pack, it's gonna encroach. So in Saratoga Springs, no, you get Little Buddha. In Albany, no, you get the movie Knowledge Graph. But even in White Plains, which is only like an hour from New York City, you get the knowledge graph for the movie instead of the map pack. And these restaurants are potentially within commuting distance of White Plains. White Plains is just a bedroom community for New York City. Lots of people commute in and out every day. So just knowing that things like that, even if you don't know if there's a movie or something that might be in the knowledge graph, sometimes it's worth checking. Or if you lose a bunch of traffic, and you don't understand why, checking for things like this are relevant. So of course you have to kind of in your mind create a grid that's like, here are the keywords that I care about and here are the locations that I care about, and I need to check each of these keywords in each of these locations to really get a good idea of what's going on. The other thing to know is that GMB is constantly experimenting with different layouts, whether it's the landing page, the branded SERP, stuff like that. And also it can be hard to keep track of when things change that are outside of your control, whether someone updated something in your company and you don't know about it, or whether you forgot to update something. So this is an example of a Microsoft Store result, which says that it's open. But then if you go to updates, it says all Microsoft Store locations are currently closed until further notice, blah, blah, blah. But there's been no further notice. So now you're left in this quandary. Are they open? Are they closed? What's going on here? So again, you don't want stuff like this to sneak up on you. So the goal here is to think of yourself at your company or for your brands, the companies that you work with. You don't want to be surprised. And so at least if something like this were to happen to one of your companies, we would want you to know and to be the expert. So if a boss or a client comes in and say, is this new? You can say, no, that's not new. We knew about it. We're working on it right now. So what we need is something like this, maybe that's, was there a googleupdate.com, and it's a website out there where you just basically put in the month and the day and the year, and it'll search and pop up any information around that time that it has related to updates. So this one says there's a Google search ranking update brewing on July 23rd and 24th. Now we searched for the 27th, so maybe this is related to that. But that's not really enough, because that doesn't actually show us what's in the search result or what's in a map pack or what's even on a page. What we need is something more like the Wayback Machine. And I don't know if you guys remember the Wayback Machine, but it's this thing that would crawl the internet and take screen caps of various websites periodically. It wasn't something that you could control, but it can be a lot of fun, and it can actually be useful for SEO if you need to see if the Internet Archive captured a change or can show you kind of what something looked like at a certain time. And so it looks like this. So I've put in Rank Mobile, which was the original name of MobileMoxie, and you can see we have results from 2008 to 2016, and we can click in and see what did the website look like exactly then. And then we can change it to say, okay, well, we rebranded in like 2013. Oh, it looks like 2011 is when we rebranded. So let's go and let's see, what did the website actually look like? We're gonna go back to 2014, no, 2013, 2014, and that's what it looked like then. And then we can go back to present day and see what does it actually look like now. So from an SEO perspective, this is useful because you can see what did the website look like, but we really want it for GMB landing pages, map packs, and search results. So MobileMoxie decided we were just gonna go ahead and make this because it seems so relevant and so useful. So this is what it looks like, and you can see when we scroll down, you've got the live view of the GMB landing page. It says it's temporarily closed, but you can click into any of that. That's a fully working phone. Or you can expand the historical information and see what did this map pack or what did this GMB result look like in real life over time. And you can scroll sideways. You can see here it's open, open, closed. And then as you go in, it gets the temporary closed icon. So you can know, and remember, Google was accidentally marking some businesses as temporarily closed, which is of course a problem. And if you didn't do that, if Google did that, you might want to know, oh my gosh, how long has this been the case? And with a tool like this, you could actually go back and see. So other things, remember that things above and below the map pack can impact your ability to get traffic. So this simply shows a map pack with the people also searched for moved way, way up. And that's interesting. That may mean that a query has a lot of variations, or that you searched for a very unpopular common query. But that could change your ability to get traffic. But also, this is another one. Below the map pack in the food query result, you can see that if you're a food delivery app in this case, this changes quite a bit. Under that map pack, we go from having a DoorDash result to having an app pack with 3 apps to the next day, this is day by day, to having Grubhub, the competitor. So if you're one of these apps, if you're Grubhub or if you're DoorDash, you would care to know about where these app packs show up, and especially this one in the middle won't show up in any of your Search Console or your analytics, but also the other 2 won't either because they're to the App Store rather than to your website. So they're invisible. Same thing in Google Play. FYI, it wasn't just an iOS anomaly. This one starts with the app pack on the 26th, then goes to DoorDash, then goes to Grubhub on the 28th. So again, you don't want to be caught off guard by stuff like this. So there are a lot of things to watch for. And the takeaway from this talk, I know I haven't shown you specifically what to do about these things, except that I want you to know, and I want you to keep in mind that if your data looks weird, if you're staring at analytics and something doesn't make sense, that you need to actually look at reality and look at what might be impacting your ability to drive traffic. So in the SERP or the map pack, that's often things like ads. So the upgraded Google Guarantee LSA, ads in the map pack, ads on your GMB landing page, PLAs take loads of traffic, more than regular PPC ads, and then just regular PPC. Sometimes they throw 4 in there, and that can take your traffic away, make it harder for you to get any eyeballs on your listing, even if you're in position 1. Knowledge graph, featured snippets. Remember, these can change from location to location. They're not that sensitive, but when something like a knowledge graph pops in above your map pack, it's a big deal and it takes attention away. App packs can also jump in there. Product knowledge graph, depending on the query. All of those things can distract people from whatever it was that they're planning on doing. Of course, COVID warnings are popping up all over the place. News and interesting finds. People also ask, or people also search for local Q&A, and then site links or fraggles. If you have them or you don't, sometimes the tools don't really report that well to you. And that might be a win that you want to show your boss and say, hey, look, we've got all these site links now, or we've got all these fraggles. And that's something that most of the tools aren't telling you about. So it's worth looking to see if you've done a good job in getting them. On your GMB profile specifically, remember you can track those too, and you can see, are competitors advertising on my listing, like that seamless ad? Are there integrations for Grubhub or DoorDash or Uber or anything else that Google might decide to try in the future on your GMB landing page? Are there rogue images that someone uploaded, or someone changed your phone number, changed your hours, made suggestions? You can see when did those go live, and could that be impacting the amount of calls you get tracked or things like that. Checking your business features, the checks and the X's, are they still correct? Are they there? Are they displaying? And just any other thing that might be new. We don't know how Google is going to mess with the display of the GMB landing pages or even the map pack display. So it's good to kind of monitor and know and be the first one in your company to know when things change. Or when something unintended, a client touched something that they shouldn't have, or an intern touched something that they shouldn't have. You want to be the first one to know. You also want to be in the know about what's showing up in the from the web results below in the bottom of your GMB listing. If it's your competitors, that's a problem, and potentially you need to be doing SEO to fill it up with non-competitive from the web kinds of results. Knowing what your hybrid GMB knowledge graph looks like with the social profiles, which ones are there, when they show up, do you have videos in there, stuff like that. And then knowing about if there's a PAA or people also searched for below your GMB profile. That's something that could help you harvest the right keywords, make sure you're targeting things appropriately, stuff like that. So the point of it all is, don't just stare at the map as you walk around the world. Actually look at the world. So don't just stare at your analytics. Actually do real live tests from real phones, from a variety of locations. Change the phone language if you want, and capture those and save the history so that you can go back and know the answer to when did this change. So if you want to test stuff like that, we have a promo code for you. I think my head is covering it up, but it's WhiteSpark, all caps, all one word, and that's going to get you 30 days free in the MobileMoxie tool set. You can do random testing in the testing screens to see what different searches look like all around the world, wherever you want, even changing the phone language, or you can use the dashboard view, and that's the one that gives you kind of the way back settings where you can set up a regular test result for daily, weekly, or monthly, and capture those and archive those. And then in the Pagescope, you can set up your GMB landing pages, knowledge graph landing pages, regular website landing pages to track those over time. And all you need is the URL, or in Google's case, the short link to your GMB profile or your knowledge graph, and it'll auto capture that for you. And we want to give this to you for free because we think this is really important. It seems like Google is getting more aggressive with their changes, and a lot of the things aren't necessarily quick to show up in any analytics platform. So it seems like knowing what reality looks like is getting more and more important, and harder to do by just looking at your analytics. So we want you to be the expert on your brand and your results. We don't want you to get buried. We don't want you to be surprised, and we don't want you to have to ask people on Twitter to do searches for you. So that's pretty much the point. Thanks for your attention. Have a good day. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up. To be notified about future videos, click the logo. And to try the MobileMoxie Mobile SEO Toolset, use the promo code YouTube to get 30 days free. They're mobile-first SEO tools for a mobile-first world.